everyone, and welcome to the Nash. How about that, right? My name is Doug Mays, and I'm the Vice President of the Board of Jazz in Arizona, and one of the people who had a very small role in putting this big, loving hug of a room together. So from the bottom of mine and lots of other people's hearts out there that I'll mention in a moment, thank you all for spending this evening with us, and many other evenings that come as well. So you are welcomed. Jazz happens here, and we want you to be here while it's happening so you can experience it with us. Anytime you have a ribbon cutting, they always trot out a bunch of guys in suits to do a bunch of speechifying, so rather than do that, I'll tell you a quick story. So I grew up in a one-horse town in North Carolina, hence the accent, right? And there was no Nash or Nash-ish place anywhere, for sure. And one day in elementary school, I think I was 9 years old, I happened to walk past the band room, and the teacher there was this big, fearsome guy that I learned later was a professional jazz trombonist. And I heard this huge, swaggering sound, and it set my hair on fire. And it was Dexter Gordon. And it was Dexter, on record, unfortunately. Dexter was with us that time, but he was not in my elementary school band room, I promise you that much. So the tune was Blues Up and Down, and I remember it very vividly. It was Dexter Gordon. Johnny Griffin was the other tenor saxophonist. And it was not a battle, by the way, it was a conversation, a very eloquent conversation. And the rhythm section at that time in Dexter's band was Rufus Reed on bass, Eddie Gladden on the drums, and George Cables on piano. Check my facts, I'm right about that. And I was intrigued enough to go in and ask what it was. And the band director said, "You don't know what that is, that's a tenor saxophone." And I said, "Can I hear some more?" And he invited me in to play me a little more. And then he threw me out because he had class coming in. And the next day, he called me into his office and laid on me a stack of records about this high and said, "Go home and learn something." And I did. And I have never stopped learning and listening. And I can tell you, from the perspective of an old 34-year-old, that that was one of the catalyst events in my life. And I think, from my perspective, that idea, that ignition power, is what this group and what this room celebrates. The idea that music can bring disparate people together. And I'll give you an example. We had Charles Lewis and the two gentlemen that were with him, Robbie Carrillo and Sean Brody. People who are of slightly different ages, by the way. Having a very eloquent, beautiful, and heartwarming conversation. Did y'all hear that? Yeah. So all you have to do is listen and you learn stuff, right? Just like what happened to me when I walked in on Dexter. So that idea that music can bring disparate groups together, that music can ignite a fire in the soul and in the brain and in the hearts of people who wouldn't otherwise have been exposed to that sort of thing, is why we're here. And I'm so happy that you're here to share that with us. Now, so that's my story. A little bit more about what we're here to do. First of all, we are a 501c3 community organization that is organized around the idea that music can make Phoenix a better place. And as I mentioned, I am but one of the people who put this together. So this has been a group effort that's been cooking for a number of years, started in the idea of one person's mind, and I'm going to embarrass him. He's going to give me the ugly eyeball here in just a moment, Mr. Herb Eli, in the back. He is assisted in no small part by his wife, Lorraine. Yes. I'd also like to introduce the Jazz and As President of the Board, Mr. Steve Douglas, who is a fine bassist in his own right. And our Executive Director, Joel Goldenthal. So I'll leave you with this. Mike Coker, who is an amazing pianist right here in Phoenix, said a few months ago that jazz was a fragile endeavor. And it's fragile only in a couple of ways. It's at a creative watershed right now. All you have to do is open your ears up and you'll know that this is not museum music. This is as vibrant and vital as any music you will ever hear, and it's happening right here in this room at this moment. So creatively, we're good. Now, this music will not exist financially and become viable without your participation and support. So I'm not going to hit you up for money. That's not what I'm here to do. But what I'm saying is that when you get the opportunity to vote with your presence, your heart, and yes, your checkbook, please take the opportunity, because this just didn't spring up out of the desert here. This was the effort of lots of people who cared in a variety of ways. So if you dig what you're hearing, please join us, and there will be more. Is that a fair deal? All right, so with that, I'm the most long-winded of us, I think, so I'm going to promptly shut up. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce our very special guest, the Vice Mayor of Phoenix, Mr. Mike Johnson. Welcome.
Thank you. You know what? This is a real jazz place, because I just heard something I haven't heard for a long time. And that is, if you dig what you hear. So you know that takes us back. But you know, music is what unites us all. Music is what speaks to us, and no matter what language there is, it will speak to us. It will make us shake our head. It'll make us pat our feet. It'll make us smile. It'll make us look around at each other. Music is the uniting thing that keeps this country going. And I think that jazz is the key #1 portion, because it will always make you shake. Always make your head. You know, it's generally always going up and down. Not. But I want to take the opportunity to thank you for coming out. I want to take the opportunity to thank all those involved in the venue for opening up right here in downtown Phoenix, right here in the heart of the Arts District. This is the Arts District downtown. It's evolving. It's right here where ASU is, right here with U of A. It's right here where we do our first Friday. Now we're doing first Thursday here. It's right here, the center point, the most focal point, where people from all over the country are coming here, being involved, listening, seeing what's going on. And now we have the #1 spot for jazz in the state of Arizona, opening right here in downtown Phoenix, the Nash. And I would tell you that if you look around and you look at this atmosphere, this is one of the warm, feeling, heart atmospheres that you see. But you see young people, you see in-between people, you see some of us all that's right here. But you know, you see young people playing together, you see older people, you see advisors playing together. That's what this jazz, that's what the Nash is going to bring. This is going to be something where when you have your relatives come in town and they want to know, where can we go at to listen to some jazz? The thing you can't forget is the Nash. You want to listen to jazz, come to the Nash. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me here to have the opportunity. This is my district. And this is one of the reasons why I always tell people, those of you know me, know that I always say I love District 8. But it's things like this and great people like you which make me love District 8 in this great city we live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Johnson. Pleasure to have you here. I'm Joel Goldthal, Executive Director, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the gentleman whose name is on the building here. And it's on the building for a number of reasons. First of all, Louis Nash is a product of our city. He was born and raised in South Phoenix. His parents still live here. And early in the 80s, Betty Carter, famous jazz vocalist, heard Louis Nash and took him to New York, and he never looked back. He has recorded with every jazz legend that's been alive in the last 30 years. And Modern Drummer magazine dubbed Louis Nash a couple of years ago the most valuable player in jazz in the world. And there's a reason for that. You don't see his name with a dozen CDs of his own name, but you see his name with Oscar Peterson and every jazz legend, and that's because he makes everybody play their best. He is the most valuable player in jazz because of the way he supports other musicians. So his name is on the building because of what he has brought to music, what he's brought to jazz education, and underneath it all, the man. He's got to be the most respected person. Every time I run into musicians and start talking about Louis Nash, they say, wait a minute, we want to talk about Louis the man. And that's why his name is on the building here. He is a model for the next generation. And it is a great pleasure to introduce to you to make a few comments, Mr. Lewis Nash.